Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze the main tactical themes to focus on when Crystal Palace travel to Arsenal. So in today's video, first we'll focus on Crystal Palace's attacking shape, then we'll shift to their weaknesses that Arsenal can exploit, and then we'll focus on who we think should feature in Arsenal's starting 11. So when we break it all down and we do look at the board, we do expect Crystal Palace to be in a 4-3-3 that drops into a 4-5-1 out of possession. While they can play in a 4-4-2, they will be looking to disrupt Arsenal and then looking to break on the counter. There shouldn't be many team selection issues for Patrick Vieira. His midfield trio has been set in stone in Milivojevic, MacArthur, and Gallagher. We have seen Kouyaté play in the deeper role when Milivojevic wasn't fit, but this should be their midfield trio going into this game. And what you see from that midfield base is that Milivojevic does protect the back four. MacArthur does sit a bit deeper, but he can look to push forward on the rare occasion. And it's that right central midfield zone where Patrick Vieira wants that player to push forward into advanced positions. Conor Gallagher has been one of their breakout players this season, pushing into those spaces between the lines and looking to break into the box or into the channels to help support the attack. And there has been the rare occasion where we've seen Jeffrey Schlupp play there as well. In the build-up to Palace's winner against Spurs, it's Gallagher from this deep midfield position sliding the ball across Reguilon into the path of Zaha in the right channel ahead of Harry Kane. What happens next is that when Zaha receives the ball, you could see Gallagher looking to make a forward run beyond Reguilon into space behind Kane to receive the return ball. What ends up happening is that Zaha ends up bypassing Kane to place Gallagher in this position to receive the ball, and that's where he's able to fire it off Davies to win the penalty. Here you see Gallagher winning an important penalty for Crystal Palace against Brighton after dragging the ball across Cucurella and forcing Trossard to step in from behind. The back four should remain unchanged, and it's out in those wider areas where Zaha is a given to start. You do expect Ayew to play on the opposite flank, but you could see Schlupp looking to play on the right-hand side if Patrick Vieira is worried about Tierney bombing forward and he's looking for a hard-working player to track that movement, or perhaps he would want Ayew to attempt to peg back Tierney. That would be unlikely given the fact that Arsenal do have one of their central midfielders dropping into that inside left position to provide cover, or you see the center back shifting across with the right back in Tomiyasu looking to hold his position to form a back three. The only other likely option for Patrick Vieira in that zone is to play Olise, who has come on as an impact sub. And what he offers is very interesting because he looks to shift into those central areas and move into the final third. And that creates space for Ward to make those overlapping runs down the right channel. And then when you look up top, it's down to what Patrick Vieira wants from his attack. If he goes with Christian Benteke, he's looking to put balls into the center forward to drag out center backs and then link play with the central midfield to get the ball out to Zaha in 1v1s. Here you could see Brentford's front two pressing Guéhi and Anderson. And what you witness from Guéhi here is rather than looking to play the ball out of play, he looks to punt it into the path of Benteke, who drags a defender towards him, and now focus on the movement of Ayew and Zaha. Zaha is looking to run off his marker in towards a wide area, and Ayew's running central to receive the flick on. When he receives the flick on, that's where you see Zaha now looking to break beyond his marker. And once again, this is where you see Crystal Palace finding a way to get Zaha into a 1v1 position. From here, you could see MacArthur making a forward run. And in that 1v1 situation, not only do you have Ayew, but you have the midfield running, which allows Zaha to create for his teammate. That play ultimately results with Zaha cutting across his marker and playing the ball into MacArthur to place him in this position at the edge of the box. And from this position, he forces the Brentford keeper to push the ball inches over the net for a corner. But while Benteke does have good movement out into the channels, his movement doesn't often manufacture into quality chances. Following Kouyaté winning the ball off Jota in the midfield zone, you witness Ayew carrying it freely into Liverpool's half and sliding it beyond Fabinho for Benteke making the run in between Van Dijk and Konate. As you could see, Benteke does a very good job of getting the ball across Konate to break free on goal. But while his movement is good, he doesn't have the pace to beat Konate stride for stride, and he carries the ball into right half space with pressure applied towards him, and he ends up forcing Alisson into a low save. That's where Edouard offers a different alternative. While he's also capable of dropping deeper and linking play with his teammates, his movement places him into positions where he's able to get into 1v1s with center backs, take center backs out of the game, and he's able of getting himself into high quality chances. When you compare the two, you would want Odegaard to start this game if you're looking to break in transition. From a MacArthur layoff, you could see Milivojevic locating Odegaard in between the Leicester City center backs, and what he instantly looks to do is play the ball in towards his center forward. He slides the ball across Soyuncu, and while Soyuncu does come across to close down Odegaard, Odegaard does a very good job of letting the ball roll across his body, and that places him in a 1v1 with Vestergaard. And from this position, Odegaard does a very good job of cutting across the recovering center back, and from here he should be scoring, but he ends up firing an effort on goal that hits the crossbar. But if you're planning to sit deeper, Benteke is able to hold up the play, get the midfield involved, or look to get runners in beyond him. Outside of that, when you look to how Palace create chances, Ayu's looking to drift centrally to drag out the left back and help provide support for the center forward, whereas Palace are looking to get Zaha into those 1v1s. There are times where you have Zaha in the gap between the center back and the right back, and he's looking to make runs in behind the right back into the left channel. That's often where you see Guehi or Mitchell looking to play balls across the right-sided midfielder and the right back to get Zaha into those positions. Or you simply see Zaha hugging the touchline to get on the ball, and that's where he's looking to go 1v1. But often what teams do well is that they have a midfielder dropping off deeper or shifting across to make it a 1v2. This isn't necessarily an issue when Zaha has overlapping runs from Mitchell or simply runs from midfield to provide options. This isn't an issue for Zaha to drag multiple defenders towards him because he is capable of breaking lines to play in his teammates. But the issue is that there's often not enough support, and that's where he forces the 1v1 and often loses the ball. At his best this season, Zaha has had help from Mitchell making those overlapping runs, and we've often seen Gallagher, for the most part, making those forward runs into the box for support, and on the rare occasion, you do see MacArthur joining the attack as well. This time you can see Zaha in a 1v1 with Canos near the touchline, and what's important here for Crystal Palace is that Mitchell begins to make the overlapping run, which creates an outlet for Zaha to carry the ball central. As you can see, you have a 2v1 there for Palace, and now Zaha can be looking to play the ball into Christian Benteke. As Zaha cuts across Canos, that's where he drags another Brentford midfielder towards him, and he instantly looks to play the ball into Benteke. Zaha creates that 1v1 for Benteke, and while his running route is blocked off, watch what Benteke does well here. He holds off the pressure from the Brentford center back, and that's where he ends up looking for the run of Ayew and Gallagher breaking in towards the penalty area. Gallagher is making that run in towards the box, and Ayew's making it towards the back post beyond Henry, and Benteke clips the ball over Henry into the path of Ayew, and from that position, he does look to volley it first time, and he should be hitting the target at the very least, but he ends up skying his effort over the net. From this position, it's Zaha receiving the ball in the right channel, and focus on the significance of runners in beyond him. You have Ward making the overlapping run, and Gallagher running into the box off Onyeka due to the fact that Zaha drags 3 defenders towards him. Zaha ends up sliding the ball into the path of Gallagher, and he receives it at the edge of the box beyond Onyeka and his marker in Yanelt, and that allows him to take a touch in towards the 6-yard box, and from this position he should be putting Crystal Palace ahead, but he ends up firing his effort over the keeper and off the crossbar. Outside of that, another element to this Crystal Palace side is that they do invite pressure, specifically the center backs, but it's because they're capable of bypassing that press. And what we see from specifically Anderson is that he's looking to play long diagonal balls over the midfield bank to evade pressure to get Zaha into 1v1s down that left channel. So Guehi and Anderson are capable of creating from those deeper areas, whether it be long balls over the top into the center forwards or playing passes beyond the midfield pressure to get their teammates into space between the lines. Here we have Anderson just ahead of the Liverpool midfield bank, and rather than looking to play through them, he locates Odegaard's run in beyond the Liverpool backline and opts to play a long ball over the top. When that ball is played, you can see Odegaard looking to back into the Liverpool center back, and that's where he's able to let the ball bounce because of his pressure on the center back. He lets it roll across his body, and now he's in a battle with the center back to get into a 1v1 against Alisson. Konate does well of doing a good job of tracking that movement when he lets Edouard break free. And because he sticks with the pressure, when Edouard is looking to get a shot on goal, Konate is able to get a foot in to ensure that Alisson's able to save it. Once again, it's Anderson on the ball, and it's Vardy looking to step forward to apply pressure. And this time, what Anderson does well is he's able to bypass Vardy with a forward pass into Edouard, who's checking into the halfway circle. When Edouard drags out Soyuncu, you also see Choudhury looking to step towards him, and that allows Edouard to chest the ball into the path of MacArthur, and when MacArthur receives the ball, he instantly looks to slide it out to Zaha, as it will place him in a 1v1. That's what you end up seeing happening, and MacArthur slides the ball out to Zaha, which places him in a 1v1 with Castagna, and from here, this is the ideal position for Crystal Palace. They want Zaha running at defenders, but in this position here, you could only see Edouard making that forward run for support. And by the time Zaha realizes that there's going to be no more support, you could see Leicester City closing down quickly with two players coming across to make it a 1v3, and that results in Zaha playing a loose pass into the defender. Therefore, when you focus on the weaknesses that Crystal Palace possess defensively, a lot of it is self-inflicted. We know they're capable of dropping off deeper and being an organized 4-5-1 out of possession, but when you look at the goals they've conceded or the chances that the opposing side have been able to create, first you could look at the center backs who at times, while they are offering a threat in possession, they're also capable of dallying on the ball and getting themselves into trouble. In the build-up to Leicester City's opener against Crystal Palace, it was Iheanacho stepping into Anderson and dispossessing him as the last man on the ball, and that's where you were able to see him break free on goal and place his effort into the net. Against Chelsea and Liverpool, Palace did encounter issues in open play out in the wider areas. Chelsea's wingbacks were looking to break in beyond Schlupp and Ayew and looking to run in behind Ward and Mitchell into those wider areas, specifically Marcos Alonso. And over on the right-hand side, we did witness Mason Mount in particular looking to shift into that zone as well to get on the ball. Meanwhile, when you focus on Liverpool, what we ended up seeing was that James Milner was holding a deeper, narrow position. Salah was tucking in central to occupy Mitchell. And then we were getting overlapping runs from Henderson, who was shifting out into that right channel zone to offer a threat. But ultimately, the biggest issues that Palace look to encounter are when teams look to play long balls over the top to break in behind. We've witnessed both Anderson and Guehi bypass by those long balls. Teams have used Welbeck, Timo Werner, and Mikel Antonio to look to make runs in beyond, and that has served to be a useful point of attack for the opposing sides. In the build-up to Antonio's second goal against Crystal Palace, it's a simple long ball into the path of Anderson, but Antonio's run in between the center backs and his pressure forces Anderson to nod the ball off the West Ham striker, and it results in Antonio receiving the ball and breaking beyond Anderson to place himself in left half space, and then he's able to fire his effort beyond the keeper. Here you see Crystal Palace's press on Brighton, and Sanchez opts to bypass it with a long ball into the path of Welbeck, making a run between Ward and Anderson. And while Welbeck does a very good job of brushing off Ward to break free on goal, Ward does a very good job of sticking with him, and Welbeck can't poke his effort over the keeper. Therefore, when you focus on how Arsenal should encounter this game, the only player that they will be missing indefinitely will be Xhaka. So now it's up to whether they want to play that 4-1-4-1 or the 4-2-3-1. Given that Palace do have threats in transition, the 4-2-3-1 does look like the likelier option for Mikel Arteta to provide Thomas Partey cover in that midfield zone rather than having him as the sole pivot with the shuttlers caught higher up the pitch. So what we're expecting is that Lokonga would drop off into that midfield zone to provide cover, and then it's what Arsenal want to do in the attacking third. Obviously this season we've seen Odegaard, Smith Rowe, and Saka play in those positions behind Aubameyang, but here, given the fact that Palace are susceptible to long balls and runners in behind, perhaps Lacazette should start up front. You can have Odegaard looking to float between the lines, but rather than having Saka or Smith Rowe dropping off deeper to pull out Ward so that Tierney can bomb forward, perhaps here you could have Aubameyang playing from the left attacking midfield zone and then looking to make runs in between Ward and Anderson. You have Lacazette that will be looking to drag the center backs out of position. And then you could have Aubameyang making those runs in behind along with Tierney. And then over on the right-hand side, it's your option of Pepe or Saka. If Arteta doesn't want to go with Lacazette from the start, you could still have Aubameyang playing in between those center backs. And then let's say you have Pepe starting from the left and looking to make those runs in behind, and then have Saka starting from the right. Smith Rowe can play a role in that attacking three as well, and perhaps he could make those runs or look to occupy space in that right channel. But for the most part, you are looking to have runners that are capable of breaking in behind, but specifically down that right-hand side, assuming that Zaha will play from the left, you will need that right-sided attacking player to track back unless you have Thomas Partey shifting across to provide cover for Tomiyasu. We do expect Zaha to start from the left-hand side to ensure that he's not forced to track the runs of Tierney. So there you have Tomiyasu against Zaha, which is a good 1v1 battle, and Tomiyasu is a competent defender. But like I said, you need cover out in those zones just in case Zaha is able to win that individual duel. But for the most part, there shouldn't be any significant changes to this Arsenal side. The center back should be capable of coping with Odegaard or Benteke up front. But the tactical shift that Arteta can deploy here is getting a runner from that left-hand side, or perhaps runners from both flanks, to look to break in behind and take on defenders, with additional help from Tierney bombing forward from left back. And the only real significant personnel decision that Arteta should be making is whether he starts Odegaard or Smith Rowe as his number 10. So as you can see, Crystal Palace are a solid defensive unit in terms of their shape, but they still remain limited in their attack, and Arsenal possess the personnel to present issues in the final third with their direct play.